Okay, where the hell is Paul? This meeting was supposed to start 2 hours ago.
Probably goofing off again, like always.
You take a place like this to transcend space and time knowing it'd ever be late, but prove me wrong, I guess.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, you guys always bring me to this interdimensional plane every time you want to have business meetings against my will, but you've never explained to me exactly what the interdimensional plane is.
Do we really have to explain this? It's really not that hard to grasp.
Oh, I'm sorry, little iPod, you're so stupid. It's just that existing between dimensions doesn't make any sense. And neither does this background for that matter. Why is it blue?
The interdimensional plane makes perfect sense. If you had read the pamphlet...
Oh, Jesus, I regard to pamphlets again.
As if anyone actually ever reads those pamphlets.
Oh, well, the pamphlets wouldn't be so hard to read if it wasn't typed out in light yellow Comic Sans on white paper.
Hey, I like Comic Sans. That font is terrible, and you know it. Well, if you had put a black outline around the letters like you were supposed to, it would have been actually legible. I've been on a black toner for 3 months.
Can we shut up about these awful pamphlets and answer my question?
Look, it's really not that hard to understand. Every dimension is created because of every outcome of every decision ever made.
Like, give this a lash. We are almost from the same dimension. Except in my dimension, I'm a Kelsey from Waterford County. And in your dimension, you're from...
Albuquerque. I was born in San Antonio.
Shut your go. Point being, that this dimension was created when the Big Bang didn't happen.
Therefore, anything that is impossible in all other dimensions is possible here. Makes sense, human?
Still doesn't explain why everything's blue.
It's blue because it wants to be blue, okay?
Hey, what's up, Deuterinos?
Paul, you are 2 hours late!
Not by California time.
For the last time, Paul, we do not operate on California time.
Wait. Paul, last time I saw you, you were an amalgamation of Donald Trump clips and quotes.
I was when I lived in the political gossip dimension, but that place was total Bomberville, USA. Now I live in the Southern California that's perpetually in the 90s dimension. It's a totally decent living situation. Like, before this, I was at an Eric Costin skate demo and a Fu Manchu show on the beach.
That actually sounds amazing.
Enough! Lime pasta, prepare for your end of the year review.
Bet PewDiePie never has to go through these.
Silence! So despite not uploading for the entire first half of the year, you have been uploading pretty consistently through quarter 3 and quarter 4.
Quality's been pretty good, you've been uploading consistently, and you've actually played every game to completion this year.
Maybe that's why your Dark Angel review has so many dislikes.
Hey, that's because of the VidMe plug. People don't like VidMe. Didn't like VidMe. Rest in peace, sweet prince.
Yeah, pretty much flying it this year. Except, one thing. Why can't you topic transitions, lad? That last episode seems like you're just raving.
Well, I kind of was just ranting and raving. I mean, that was kind of the whole point of the episode.
And we're hoping for another radical year.
Do you have any questions before we continue?
Yeah, I had one question. Not so much about the channel, but, Oakenbark. There was, like, a sentient Christmas tree that broke into my apartment in the last episode and gave me hot dogs and then left. Was he one of yours?
Yes, he's from my dimension. I'd rather not talk about it.
No, taken.
Oh, speaking of Christmas, what's your plans for the Christmas episode this year?
Oh. Yeah. I got
Lime pasta, if you do not start your Christmas episode, I will send you to the deepest depths of the interdimensional plane where you shall never escape for all eternity.
Sitting down to write this, I realized there's not much more I can say about Christmas video games that hasn't already been done to death. The only things I can think that are really worth talking about are Christmas Nights into Dreams, which is just Nights into Dreams with a Christmas skin, not much there. And there's also Days Before Christmas, which is just weird. And the more and more I'm trekking through the Game Grumps back catalog for inspiration, the more I'm realizing how much of a one-trick pony Christmas games are. As I was compiling a list for this year's episode, I realized the script was looking eerily similar to last year's episode. And I don't just want to say, whoa, this game is a Christmas game and also bad every single year. That'd be the ultimate cop-out.
You know, before I start, I feel as if I need a more festive shirt. Hey, that's better. So, thinking about the Line Pasta Christmas special this year got the old Line Pasta brain turning a little bit. And I realized that, I really don't play too many video games around this time of year. I would much rather sit down and watch a Christmas special rather than having to think about what I'm doing. And that got me thinking about the kinds of Christmas specials that I watch every year. And I realized there are a few select Christmas specials that I know people watch, but I know people don't watch every year like I do. So, this year, I'm deciding I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and review something besides video games. So I guess it's not really stepping outside my comfort zone too much. But I digress. This year, I think I'm going to talk about some Christmas specials that may be a little bit more uncommon in people's yearly repertoires. So, let's sit back, relax, and talk about some Christmas specials. And I know just the first one to start with. When you think of Christmas, what's the first thing you think of? K-On!
Okay, confession time. I'm just the tiniest little bit of moe-loving trash. Now, to make sure we're on the same page here, I don't intentionally seek out anime with moe-esque characters in it, because, let's be honest, most of them are trashy cash grabs. But as much as I strive to be a man's man with the sideburns and the whatnot, I can't help but see a show that's inherently adorable like Usagi Drop and go, oh! And sometimes I want to watch anime to see the struggle of trying to run away from your pain. Sometimes I want to watch anime to watch a giant thesis on the morality of moving forward in the scientific world and how that affects religion. But sometimes I just want to shut my brain off and watch an anime about 4 cute girls that want to form a rock band. And it just so happens that K-On! Is that show. Gee, it's almost as if I wrote that paragraph specifically to end it with K-On! Was that joke too meta for ya? Well, too bad, because I watched episode 7 of the first season of K-On! Every single year. Christmas episodes in anime are not actually all that common, and really only show up in slice of life shows like this one. A lot of them are pretty lame, consisting of the cast in snow with Santa hats and vague Christmas themes. But not K-On! We got some effort here, boys! I love this episode because of the laid-back subtlety of it. Here's the plot. The gang decides they want to play a Christmas gig at Mugi's house. Their plans fall through, so they just have a Christmas party at Yui's house instead. Okay, roll the clip from my Kirby review.
Great adventure!
But seriously, this episode tackles a very important part of Christmas with only mood and context clues, and that is the value of family bonds. It's revealed partway through the episode that Yui and Ui's parents are in Germany for Christmas. In fact, apparently they travel a lot. And based on not seeing them in the first scene with Yui and Ui as small children, or anywhere in the show up until that point, perhaps they travel a bit more than they should. I don't think the intent is selfish or malicious. Based on the scene where we actually see them, I think they're just huge space cadets. Like Yui. That being said though, that's still kinda messed up. How often do they travel around Christmas without their 2 daughters? How much time out of the year are their parents gone? I don't know if that's just a common thing in Japanese culture, or if Japan doesn't take Christmas as seriously as the rest of the world, but nonetheless, Yui and Ui are alone a lot. With this set in place, this episode just shows how close of sisters Yui and Ui are. And it doesn't try to spoon-feed you morals like a lot of generic Christmas specials do. It's done strictly through callbacks, mood, and very subtle animation. Also, one other thing to mention about this episode is the mood and the overall feel of it. It feels like Christmas. The soundtrack, the animation, the clothing design. It even gets down to the tedious shopping of Christmas with the mall scene. You can feel the whole aesthetic of Christmas throughout this entire episode. Ultimately, what this episode comes down to is the aforementioned Christmas aesthetic and the storyline between Yui and Ui that is so heartwarming that it fits perfectly into the Christmas spirit. Hence, why I watch it every year. Oh, also this scene.
まさかロープをよじ登り窓から侵入して忍び込んで
Move over, Tom Holland. There's a new Spider-Man in town.
I think that's enough about K-On! For now. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something a little bit more traditional. Mormons.
Fun fact number 1. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir does a Christmas performance every year. Fun fact number 2. I try to catch a recording of it every year or try to find it on PBS or something. I don't know what it is about this choir. It's so angelic and enchanting. You would think watching a choir sing religious Christmas hymns would be stuffy and boring, but quite the opposite. I don't know if it's the size of the choir or if it's the arrangements they perform, but every time they perform, I'm just drawn to them. It's incredible. The whole vibe of it is just Christmas. There's no other way to explain it. I can just sit there glued to the TV, mesmerized watching them. They're just so powerful. Maybe if it's a bit too stuffy for y'all, but I try to watch this every year. And you know what? I really don't have anything else to say about it. They're just incredible. Just, yeah, if you see them on PBS, give them a watch.
Now, this next one's a little bit more common and is becoming more and more common over the years, but I feel as if I need to bring it up because of my personal relationship with this show. Being an American, I feel as if I've missed out on a bunch of great British television. But thankfully, there are channels like BBC America and A&E that love to run reruns of 80s British TV. Which is why when I was a child, I religiously watched Mr. Bean. And the Mr. Bean Christmas special might be one of the funniest episodes that show had to offer.
There is something that's just so charmingly, English about Mr. Bean. Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean is just so drenched in Christmas themes that I can practically smell it. But not just any kind of Christmas, stuffy English Christmas. Which I think makes Mr. Bean's character stand out even more than the other episodes. He already sticks out like a sore thumb against English society, but the concept of Christmas pushes Mr. Bean's childlike wonder and the orthodoxness of posh English manners to the extreme. All of these jokes are hilarious, especially the one where he's screwing around with the nativity scene. It's just so sacrilegiously funny. But there's also an aspect of this special that's kind of depressing. In most episodes, Mr. Bean's childlike ignorance really ends up affecting others around him more than it actually affects him. I mean, of course, in every episode he finds himself in an undesirable situation, but he always finds a way to get out of it in one way or another. But this episode seems to show a little bit of a lonelier side of Mr. Bean. I mean, this is brushed upon in other episodes, but not quite to this extent. You see him mail Christmas cards to himself, you see him celebrate Christmas morning with only Teddy and a mouse who he tries to kill, you even see his girlfriend leave him over a miscommunication. Said miscommunication I will not spoil for those who haven't seen it because it might be the funniest joke in the episode. We actually see Mr. Bean's oblivious personality affect his life in a major way, and not for the better. They follow all these things up with humor so that the episode isn't a complete downer, but there's still that element of his character that we really don't get to see all that often. Between that and some of the best jokes in the whole show in this one episode, this is a special I revisit every year.
Merry Christmas, Mr. B.
Now, this next one that I'm gonna bring up is only sort of vaguely related to Christmas, but I have to bring this one up. And hell, if George R.R. Martin can delay Black Friday by a week, then I can shoehorn this into my Christmas special. And that's because I have a tradition every year of watching the South Park Game of Thrones Black Friday trilogy on Black Friday.
Fun fact about me, I don't do Black Friday. If I want good deals on products, I'll buy them off of Amazon on Cyber Monday. Same deals, none of the risk of injury. And with the healthcare system in America right now, you'll be taking that money you save buying little Timmy's Christmas gifts and putting it towards the hospital bill for little Timmy's shattered wrist. No siree, not for me. I don't even leave the house on Black Friday. I hunker down with a cup of coffee and some Thanksgiving leftovers, and I watch the South Park Game of Thrones episodes. Most people would think that if I brought up South Park during a Christmas episode, that I would talk about Woodland Creatures Save Christmas. And don't get me wrong, Woodland Creatures Save Christmas is an amazing episode, and I do try to watch it some years. But the Black Friday trilogy for me is an actual tradition that I actually sit down and watch every year. And they're just too genius not to talk about. Matt Stone and Trey Parker's statement on corporate cause and effect on consumerist-driven society works so well with the parody of Game of Thrones. But these 3 episodes aren't afraid to critique the consumer as well, even going so far as to throw in live-action footage of horrid Black Friday stampedes right at the climax, instead of animating it, just to remind us how real the topic they're talking about actually is. All this competition between companies wouldn't even affect us if we didn't play into it by going out and aggressively spending money based on what we didn't spend rather than what we did. It makes a huge statement on an introspective socio-political topic while making great jokes along the way, just like South Park does.
I've always had one question about this special, though. Throughout the entirety of the trilogy, Butters brings up the concept of floppy wieners constantly. But really, in the show of Game of Thrones, there are really only like 3 or 4 times where you explicitly see a floppy wiener. Now, I can't speak for the books because I haven't read the books. Perhaps there are more floppy wieners in the books, but I can't tell for sure. Personally, if I wanted to make this joke land, I would have made fun of D.B. Wise's and David Bettenhoff's obsession with the human butt.
Oh yeah, also, minor Game of Thrones spoilers ahead. Skip to this time code. But with that out of the way, I mean seriously! Every episode, there's at least one shot which forces your attention directly at a character's ass. It's kind of amazing how much attention they give to butts when they're on screen. So you like Osha? You like Osha's character? Well, they show her butt. What about Marjorie? Yep, Marjorie, they show her butt. Think they show her butt at least twice. Brienne, nice, strong female character, spitting image of feminism. Want to see her butt? Well, they show it. Daenerys Targaryen, who doesn't like Emilia Clarke? Well, her butt's in the first episode. Don't like the fact that I've only been talking about the butts of women? Well, Game of Thrones has got you covered. Jaime Lannister, he's a good-looking dude. They show his butt. Hodor, the purest boy of them all. They sure do show his butt. Renly Baratheon, Loras Tyrell, get this, both of their butts in one scene. 2-for-1 deal there. Tyrion? Jorah? Pod? Maester Aemon? I don't know, there's so many butts flying around in this whirlwind of butts that I can't remember every butt I see. Look, I get it. These are supposed to be realistic human stories set in a high fantasy world. No one has clothing on their bodies 100% of the time, especially in a world where sexy hour is every hour on the hour. But my god, the attention they put on the concept of the buttocks in this show is unreal. You know what? They should go all out. Last episode of Season 8, the final episode. During the credits, they should do a curtain call of every character that has ever been on the show, and then show their butt! And here's Sean Bean as Ned Stark! And here's his butt!
I think I've gone on a little bit too long about butts. In fact, I think that kind of got a little weird there at the end. Let's wrap this up. Wrap this up. Like a Christmas present. I'm running out of jokes.
Bringing this back to Christmas, these specials have become a yearly tradition for me for one reason or another. I obviously have a lot more Christmas specials that I watch every year, but these 4 stood out to me as things that have been viewed quite a bit, but not too many other people would say that they watch these every year like I do. I never thought I'd be talking about an anime, a politically charged Comedy Central show, a British sitcom from the late 80s, and Mormon musical ensembles in the same episode. But I guess Christmas is rather a unifying holiday like that, so I guess I can't be too surprised. I hope if you haven't seen any of these already, you might give them a shot. And who knows, you might incorporate this into your yearly Christmas repertoire too. Until then, Merry Christmas, folks.
So in conclusion, I give... Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't actually review anything. In the end, I'd give nothing, force of habit. Out of 10. Did you like it? Did you like it? What is with your obsession with the human posterior? I think what you mean to say is, what is D.B. Weiss and David Benioff's obsession with the human posterior?
Either way, that episode was, okay, I guess.
I thought it was pretty good, considering he literally put it together in front of us in 3 days.
I think that line was a little bit too self-aware. What do you think, future self? Don't answer that.
Well, it seems like there is one thing still left to do.
And what's that?
The part where you stare deeply into the camera and talk about your year in retrospect.
Why?
Come on, you did it last year.
Yeah, but we sort of summed up the year for the Lime Pasta show in like the first 5 minutes of the review, so doing it now seems a little bit redundant, don't you think?
What about the YouTube climate? You made a statement about the YouTube climate last year.
It sucks. YouTube is a mess. Bam, there you go. Content creation is dead.
Whoa, such a downer, dude.
Life's a downer.
Speaking of uploading things, weren't you supposed to launch a new show this year?
No.
Huh, weird. I could have sworn you said something at the end of last year's Christmas episode.
I never did. I never did that. No, never launched a show.
No, you definitely said something about it. In fact, here's a clip of you saying it.
In, perhaps, Lime Pasta's soapbox?
I'm up shit creek without a paddle, aren't I?
Lime Pasta!